good to go. Also, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yay. I like your...
Huh?
Did you get a fresh haircut?
Look at my face.
And yeah, I was like, okay, something else is different.
It's all
And
of
it's
this.
just your
It's all
mustache.
gone. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Tried something
I was
new
like,
today.
this is a new look. I like it. It's fun. Did you also shave your head though again?
No.
Oh, it looks like it.
Well,
it
I trimmed the sides up.
Oh, okay, I was like,
the
it
other
looks
day,
very fresh.
But they're more like, yeah. It's not round.
I
Okay.
see.
Ready to get your notes up and the movie?
Yes.
Boobies. Boobies. Howdy.
Hello and hi.
And welcome to
Boobies.
Boobies.
That's right. We're your host. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And we are here to whisper about a movie that terrified me as a kid.
Truly. I'm sure.
And then, thank God, other people on the internet as well.
All the comments that were under the movie were literally like, this terrified me. I only remembered this because of this. Or like, my father scared me as a child with this movie. Stuff like that.
Everyone was traumatized.
I was
like, thank God.
If you were like an 8, 7, 10-year-oldish.
Yeah.
That time
really
frame,
young. And then everyone also,
very scary.
There were multiple comments being like, I thought I like fever dreamed this movie and could not remember if it was real. And I thought that for a long time as well, because I couldn't remember the name of it. And no one I had ever asked, I've not met a single person in this world who has seen this movie.
And
until you now.
Question,
Yay.
Did you watch it? Like, this was for sure you watched it like on TV, right?
Yeah, I think we had the DVD.
A DVD
or
of
maybe
it.
it was a VHS at that point too.
Because I'm like, was this a straight to, I can't tell, was this like a straight to DVD, straight to VHS?
Yeah.
Like, or was it like a theatrical? Because I didn't see, like it was I didn't see too many like big like trailers of it. That's why I'm asking, like how, movies back, like a theatrical release would have. But yeah, what movie are we talking about?
Milo. 1998.
Directed by Pascal Fanchot. And written by some other dude's name that I had, but then I pulled it away. It was written by Craig Mitchell. So yeah, I didn't really have, because I tried to look it up. I didn't really have much information on like its release other than the date and that it was rated R. So I don't know. That's why I was asking. I was like, was it theater? Was it straight to VHS? Was it like, because it also gave like TV special to me.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
And it also did come out October. It came out during Halloween season of 98.
Oh, good.
October 6th.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically kind of your somewhat standard child killer.
An urban legend.
Yeah.
Maybe in a way.
As well. And Milo has such an, I don't remember his voice being as comical as it was.
The whole time I was like, why is he talking like this?
Yeah.
It's very comical.
I felt like they were maybe trying to go like Chucky, but then like Chucky was done super well, even though his voice is like kind of
but
like.
His voice doesn't even sound like that.
No, yeah, no.
But his voice was very.
Just kind of.
Obviously not the child's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt odd.
Mm-hmm. It just felt too funny. Like it felt like it took me out of it because I'm like,
hello, Claire.
Yeah, the way he was talking and like
yeah,
that. Like I was like, it sounds like the dude who always stands behind what's her name in Hey Arnold.
Oh yes.
I forget her name. Not
like
Angelica. Helga. Yeah, and he's just
Helga.
Like literally. But
or someone on Bob's Burgers also.
That's
I feel like
true.
Bree's like that. It's Jean's the girl he's like dating, and then she also makes a
those type
musical,
of sounds.
and stuff. I don't know.
But Caitlin's choking, you guys. R.I.P.
I just completely missed my mouth.
It happens.
Poured it on my lap.
It happens.
I need to go to bed.
That happens to me all the time, actually. So as Caitlin gathers, we want to start the movie going into titles and credits. Essentially, that's what I got.
No, yes.
And also just to point out, we watched this on YouTube because I couldn't find
couldn't find it
anywhere else. Yeah, it was uploaded to YouTube, so
I checked
it wasn't
everything.
It wasn't the worst quality, but it wasn't the best quality, if that made sense. But it was also filmed in '98, so
that's true. And I can't hear unless I can read the words.
Oh, and there were no subtitles.
There were no subtitles.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so there was a lot of times where I'm like, what? Especially when Milo was talking, and I was like, what the fuck is he saying? Yeah. I couldn't tell, and I had to rewind a few times to be.
I feel you on that.
What in the world is being said here? Because short of having it up like all the way, I couldn't tell what the hell was going on.
Well, for me, what also helped is I literally watched it on my phone with headphones. Yeah. So I could hear it really well and then like see it because it was like, small and not like on a big screen, like, the pixelated or whatever. Yeah. So I could see pretty good and hear it pretty well. But his voice was just kind of took me out a little bit. But we start with the title, we get some credits, and then we start on some little girls that are swinging in a park, essentially. They're hanging out and they're waiting for someone, but we don't know who yet. And one of the little girl, I think it's Marianne, is being like, he's not going to show up. He's not going to come.
It was Marianne.
Yeah.
Or no, it was May.
I
think it was May.
Okay.
She's the one who dies.
Yeah. But he's not going to come. And so that's whenever at some point, Miss Claire, as we found out later, ends up going to the school into it to, I guess, get a sip of water. But I think she's not going to get a sip of water, but she's going to go do something. But that's
she
when
went to the bathroom, and then on her way back
out,
she runs into Kelso.
Yeah, but no, that's before she even goes into the restroom. Oh, because he's like, "Hey, girl," and she slips into that door, and then
I thought she just hid in a random closet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like she had just finished, and then she just like hid in there, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Because then she kind of like peeks out. Yeah. Again, and I was like, "What?" I don't know.
But she comes back out, and then she finishes and writes underneath the fountain. It's like it'll come back later. We don't see at that moment what she does write though.
Yeah, all I could see was Marian and Claire, and then that was it.
Yeah, and then I think it was May and Claire. No. Wasn't it the girls who died?
I think she wrote Marian because that's what I wrote the second time as well. Okay. Or Rad is what it says later.
And so this is what you get for watching a movie on YouTube. And so that's whenever she goes right up to, I guess, an entryway exit, however you would say, and the little boy pops up in a raincoat, yellow slicker.
And we had kind of seen that earlier during those opening scenes that were very close up that didn't really tell you, it didn't make any sense to you. Yeah. At first, but it had a lot of like, because we saw the cards and the spokes, we saw the M that was engraved on his bike, and then his raincoat and stuff like that. So we saw kind of the like main things that come into play later, and then we know that kind of is a characteristic of Milo's bike. Yeah. And so whenever she starts seeing it later, we know like, oh fuck, that is Milo. Yeah. But yes, they just all willy-nilly follow him, which was so weird to me.
Same. And they just got on their bikes and were just like, okay. They're
like,
asking him those questions like, what school do you go to? And he doesn't even answer.
He's just like, Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, by the time they get to his house,
dark as fuck.
It looked dark. Yeah. And so I was just saying,
I was wondering like how long
did these kids just like follow they can just miles? Ride until dark like it's nothing, because all of them were still just like like, sorry, riding multiple miles on a bike is not easy.
Essentially. And well, if we're thinking this is 16 years before, I'm assuming the movie was released in 98. So I'm assuming it takes place in 98. So it had to be 83. So I feel like back then, maybe, yeah. I feel like back in the day, people let their kids just be out all the time. And like, they wouldn't even come home till like dinner time, supper time,
But I meant for like physical activity, like them being able to ride that.
I don't know.
Calmly.
Kids have a lot of stamina.
I guess. They were just sitting back though, like so proper posture and stuff, and not being like over the front like I would be. But then also, so I was confused. It was dark, but then it seemed like it was light again. So I don't know if they just like used a random shot and didn't fix that.
When they were inside the house, it looked like it was light outside.
Yeah. And then even after they parked their bikes, because it was just on the shot of the gynecology clinic where I was like, oh shit, it's like dark as fuck. And then whenever they were getting off their bikes to go into the house,
gotcha,
it looked like it was sunny again.
More sunny.
I think.
I don't think I caught that. I was probably writing notes, but all I can say is this film didn't probably have a high budget, so I'm sure maybe there could have been like a continuance, like disruption there, like, you know, continuity. But
or they just didn't notice. But
yeah,
Milo's
or just bad lighting.
Milo's taking them to a gynecology clinic, according to the sign, and we find out that it is his father, Dr. Jeter.
Dr. Jeter, yeah,
who owns this. But yeah, this is where I put, like, his voice is really silly.
It's very silly. I was like, why the fuck is he talking like this?
Yeah, I was so confused.
Because he's taking them inside, and he's had essentially promised them to show them some jars with things inside of them. And so we get them coming in. He's like, you know, it's this way, and then like takes them into this basically wardrobe looking thing, like
a little curio cabinet kind of.
Sure, for like China, probably.
Yeah,
you know,
China cabinet.
Yeah, but he opens it
instead of China.
There's babies in jars.
And one of them says like jars of apricot jam. It might have been him.
Maybe.
I don't know. Someone said that, and I was like,
yeah, he said that.
These are babies. Yeah. What?
Yeah, but I was just like, why do they have babies in the jars? But okay. And so then that's whenever they're looking at all of them, and he says, well, y'all promised if I showed you the jars, you would come with me.
Let me do. He was like, it's time for your checkup. And they're like, what? And he said, you promised me if I showed you the jars, you would let me
like perform a checkup on you.
Yeah.
Like
and I was
be your doctor.
Oh, what?
Very creepy.
No.
Yeah. And so that's whenever
we also get the panic.
Oh, and they're all bitches too. Yeah. Because they're all little bitches, because he's like, which one? Like, he's basically like, one of you come with me, and they all go and look back at each other until everybody's just looking at May. And then apparently May's just like, well, okay, I guess it's going to be me.
Singled out.
Literally.
And sorry, on the jar, on the China cabinet of babies,
the 1953
there was an empty jar that said 102353, and even there, knowing, okay, so I had seen this film, yes, once when I was a kid, horrified me, so I didn't watch it again, because clearly even the idea that I had of floor vents, not really a thing.
Yeah.
Not really a thing. There's like one little area where he's kind of behind something.
And he's stabbing her from I think it was the stairs in the basement. Yeah.
So that is probably what I was thinking of, but my brain morphed it
into an air vent thing. That's so funny how life works like that.
Yeah. I was like,
or maybe it's something else that you saw that's from. And you maybe conglomerate, like
I probably
morph them
did
together.
Morph them together.
Yeah.
I did have
still be out there.
The bride part right.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember them all being dressed up in bridal gowns. Yeah. And so that.
When you find the right dress.
But yes, I didn't remember the part about him being an aborted fetus that.
Like a Frankenstein monster, basically.
Brought to life. Yeah. And so, but even there, I was like, that's his jar.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
To me, I didn't catch that. I thought maybe it was like one of the girls was going to be put in the jar. I don't know. I also didn't know what year it was. So I was like, could this be 53? So I was like, interesting. Is he like having a jar ready for one of them? And then I was thinking like, wait, are one of these girls pregnant? I don't know. Yeah, like I was like, whoa, where's this going?
Whenever we went into that room with May and him.
Granted, they're just like what, 12-year-olds probably?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he put her in stirrups, right? Like she was in like stirrups. And so
like you're gonna get a pap smear or something.
As I was watching this, I was like, wait, are one of them pregnant? Yeah. And then I was like, oh no, is he gonna impregnate her?
Yeah.
Was my other, because the way he started
this movie was rated R too. Oh yeah, it was very sexual. It was weird. Yeah.
And very rapey.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was creepy.
I don't know if that was the correct word to use. Sorry. But it was
very essay.
Yes. Not a fan.
And so, yeah, he ends up basically May's in there. He gets on top of her. He's like cutting around her essentially. Or no, he checks her with because that's later, my bad. He checks her with the stethoscope. And he's like, oh my God, something's wrong. Something wrong. And then that's whenever he just starts hacking away at her. We're left to assume because then they're all like.
His little scalpel.
It's
his weapon of choice.
They are, the girls get up as they're like looking around. And I think it's really Claire's the one who like starts looking at the door. and like blood just starts coming from the bottom of it. And then,
literally she's lost so much blood that it started pooling and running underneath the door, which is wild.
And so they end up opening the door, right? Or something opens the door.
Milo opens the door.
And it's just
and
like,
Claire was the first one who noticed it, and so she was the closest to the door. So she got stabbed. The other girls, thankfully, I think no one else was physically harmed. May died. Claire was stabbed. And then the rest obviously were still traumatized from this event.
In their own way.
But
we have her waking up.
That she's our main character of sorts. Yeah, she is. And she was clearly having a nightmare and
dream sequence that explained everything that we needed to know to set up this movie. So it works out perfectly.
It was nice.
Yeah.
And we kind of get a pan in on her little scar too on her chest. So we are like, okay, this is Claire.
Yeah.
Who got stabbed.
Because at that point we still even didn't really have too many names. Like when they were little kids, you know?
Oh yeah. I had no clue who was anyone until I didn't know May's name. I thought that was Marion. With her name possibly being shortened. And then until I realized Marion was still alive, and then they were like, that's May. And I was like, oh, okay. May is dead.
Yeah. May was the little girl that died.
Took me a little bit.
We're old now, obviously. It's 1998. She's a grown-up, and that's whenever we see her, like...
Talking to her fucking fish.
Talking to her fish.
Which is, like, that's normal. But at first I was like, bitch, who are you talking to?
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't see the fish.
Yeah.
And then she starts, like, actually talking to the fish, and I was
pans
like...
to him.
Ew.
Yeah. So that's her best friend. Yeah. And so we have her... it shows kind of basically her life. She's a substitute teacher at this school with, I guess... people who are supposed to be teenagers, but they look like fucking 30-year-olds. Yeah. Like
I was
full-grown adults.
That maybe
but
this was a
I feel like that's how
prep
people
course or
in
something.
90s, that's what people in the 90s look like though. In
just
high
full
school.
adults.
Yeah. I feel like, because anytime I look at like old school videos of like people in high school, I'm like, they all look so old. I don't know.
Yeah. They didn't have as much skincare back then.
Yeah. And so we have her basically back at home. She's going through her mail, and she got an invitation for her friend Ruth, who's getting married back from her hometown. One of the little girls from her group that was, traumatized by Milo.
What a fun way to have your wedding invitation as well. Like it had the newspaper clipping.
The clipping inside of it. Yeah.
And then which that clipping is important. It comes back into play later. But I just was like, oh, that's cute. And it had plane tickets for her, which I was like, damn, that's a real friend.
That's a good friend.
That's nice.
Because then you can't say no as well.
Yeah.
But also, too, it's just like you forget because back in the day, people actually used to get like wedding things and all that stuff put in the paper. Like, that's crazy to me.
Engagement announcements
and all that.
And stuff. Yeah.
And so... and now it's just like Facebook. And so that's whenever she's basically smiling. She's just like
she yells Ruth's getting married
to the fish.
Yeah. And I was like, at first again I was like, who's she talking to?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's the fish.
The movie transitions pretty fast. It's a pretty short movie. It's only like an hour and a half. And so
assuming we got the whole
movie, right?
Yeah.
And so we have her then, like, she's in a cab. She's obviously back in her hometown. She's heading back to someone's house. I think it's the blonde girl's house. Abby. And so she ends up like having flowers. She shows up to the door, and Abby and Marion come out. They're all in black, which I'm like, this is a really fast turnaround. But anyways, apparently through the confusion, Ruth had got into a car accident the evening before and had died.
And they hadn't been able, because as she was approaching, I was like, they look too sad.
Yeah.
I was like, why did they look so sad?
I was like, oh, this is not the right event.
Because then I was like, they could have just been into wearing all black. Like it didn't look like full on morning clothes. It just looked like kind of your standard 90s all black outfit. The black sheer tights under like the long skirts and your docks.
Princess Di's dress.
Yeah. And then they are basically saying, Ruth passed away and
she dead.
Sorry,
yeah.
We tried calling you, but you were already on the plane, kind of thing.
Here, yeah. Back then, no cell phones, so it's different.
Yeah, a little bit harder to get in contact.
Yeah, because she's obviously not home, so she can't answer her house phone. She just had to wait till she got there. That is so weird. I'm so glad that we are not in that time period.
This is silly. I read webtoons, as I know I've mentioned on here before, but yesterday while I was dying, I was reading this one that is based in the 80s, but they kind of look there's a lot of like 80s fashion in it, but then there's also like the main character looks like he could still just kind of be modern.
Yeah.
It's just like clothing that's existed for decades and he's just wearing it. So there's multiple times where I'm like, why don't you just fucking call him? And then I'm like,
you have to remember that it's the
80s.
Yeah.
They can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so different.
It keeps tripping me up. So like, there's a lot of times when movies are based in older times and stuff like that. I'm like, what?
Why can't you just do this? Google it.
Just Google it. Yeah. Call the person.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we've become a society. Like, I'm so dependent on technology. Like, you think about it. Like, even watching these movies. We watch all these movies through streaming. And like if the internet went down and we didn't have access to internet, girl, I don't have a DVD player, a VHS.
I think my DVD player
anymore.
is
like
broken.
Yeah.
But
anyways.
I do have a bunch of DVDs.
And I was also at the HB the other day and I saw like DVD bin and I was like, wow, people still just really be buying DVDs.
Oh, that's me.
Like,
I do.
Really? At the
yeah,
DVD
when
bin?
that's like the $5 DVDs, yes. I'll still buy them.
And I think like, and my initial thought was like, man, that's crazy. Just stream it. But then I'm thinking like, damn, you know what? Those people are really set up because like when the apocalypse happens or like when like if there ever is a time where you can't stream, you have the DVDs. You know what I mean? But anyways, I digress and let's get back to Milo. So that's whenever they're all kind of catching up. They're getting, you know, caught up, I guess, on whatever happened, and then we have
and also just reminiscing.
Yeah, reminiscing
because they're talking about
they were childhood friends.
Yeah, and Claire and Ruth, I suppose, are the two who went on to be teachers. But then Claire constantly is kind of underselling herself. Yeah. She just doesn't have any ounce of confidence.
Not at all,
really. And then she's kind of a doormat.
Yeah.
So that's why at the end, whenever she kind of takes it back for herself, it's
sure,
good for you, Claire.
Well, even the other two, it's because like they're on different ends of like the spectrum, like because the other two friends definitely seem like cutthroat, like just bitches, like as well though.
Yeah, Marianne was definitely a lesbian, or at least
power lesbian, and then Abby was like that very like just I felt like mean girl, like rich mean girl. Yeah. But I digress. They're catching up, but they're basically saying as well how Ruth passed away and she had all these students that really cared for her, and it would be a good idea for Claire to take over her classroom, which I was so like, what? Odd. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me, but okay.
No, I was like, Claire's clearly traumatized of this place. Why? I mean, she had to leave due to her trauma.
Yeah. Well, the other two friends were also very insensitive the whole time. So they also didn't ever really see things from her perspective. So no, I don't think they really had like her best interest.
No.
They
and
just
then
thought.
Also, I'm sorry, who are you to fill a job position in the school? Neither of you are on the school board.
Yeah.
Or have this power to be like, you should just do this. And then, I mean, somehow miraculously, she does get the job.
It's the movie.
I know. But it's
Bing,
like.
boom, bah.
What? Like, you guys don't have any say in that.
Because she's like there the next day.
I know it's a small town,
but... And they're like, you're the teacher.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
Then he's like, y'all didn't even like try to.
And he's like, and he told her too, he was like, you were more than qualified. And I was like, with what?
With what? She's a sub.
She was subbing.
I'm sorry to all the
or maybe she did have her credentials and she was just subbing because she couldn't handle teaching full time. But that also just shows you maybe you shouldn't be a teacher
especially in your hometown.
Yeah.
With little kids.
And so she's at the school, she's meeting with the principal, they are speaking, they're talking, she's basically getting the job. That's whenever they're walking around the halls, he's kind of giving her the tour, you know, lay of the land. They see Mr. Kelso and she's like, wow, Mr. Kelso is still here, and he makes that joke of like, yeah, I think he'll be here till he polishes the school down to its foundation.
Yeah, just nothing left, which was for how like attentive Mr. Kelso, Dr. Kelso was to the floors and stuff. The outside of that school was busted.
Yeah.
That motherfucker needed a paint job so badly.
Yeah.
The whole like front of it was just crumbling.
Yeah.
But here's Mr. Kelso just buffing the floors till forever.
It's irony.
The floors are nice and shiny, but
it's
the
ironic.
outside of the school's falling apart.
I'm sure they're underfunded, and then I could only imagine maybe even too, because it doesn't seem like the movie had like a big budget.
Yeah.
They had to find a school that like maybe it wasn't even a school anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, probably.
Like in real life.
It was just but
empty. They were just using it for the film. You know?
Very possible.
But we have her essentially being Oh, she goes and looks in the hallway. That's right. And she looks under the water fountain. And that's when we get to see as well that she had written that Marianne and
Claire are rad.
So, and I'm like, how the hell is that still there?
Yeah.
16 years later. That doesn't make sense.
Kelso's too attentive to everything.
Yeah.
That except for the outside
and it was like
of the school.
Pencil.
Yeah. And then I know it was written like under the water fountain. So unless you're like a child.
Condensation and like water get back there too?
I would think so. I don't really know how water fountains operate. I don't stare at them long enough.
But yeah. So anyways, that's still there, but it's also just a cute little nod back to like, I guess when she was a child. So it's nostalgic. But that's whenever we get to the classroom, she's with her children.
These
and
little kids
talking
are
to them.
savage.
Yeah, they are. And then I didn't know if you noticed, but there's Mila Kunis.
And she's not listed in the film.
She's uncredited. Yeah. Little Miss Kunis, and she looks the exact same, talks the exact same.
She does, yes.
Yeah, and she had to be like, what, 10 or something there?
Yeah. Something. But I mean,
I knew immediately when I saw her, I was like, what the fuck? That's Mila Kunis.
Yeah, exactly. Same. I was just like, oh, I know her.
Yeah.
Don't remember her being in this. But.
Yeah, so we get a little, basically an introduction to, out of all the kids, because she has all the students, we only really talked to her, Mila, which I forget her name in the classroom setting, Kendra, and then Evan, who is a little weird boy.
Yes.
And the kids are chatting with her. It kind of almost seems pretty too smooth. Like she's basically saying, I know how much y'all loved Ruth, so I'm not going to replace her. I won't even try. I'm just going to do my own thing. And it seems
the whole talk to me, her inflection A was weird. B, the whole talk just seemed a little too mature for these kids.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All of it. And it was like she had prepared this speech and stuff, and the kids were feeding the exact lines back. It was just very weird.
I can see that.
I was just like, what?
I was also thinking that as well. I was like, these aren't like middle schoolers even. They're not even.
Yeah, these are elementary school kids, and you're sitting here talking like just very plainly about death and stuff like that, and that's not something that a lot of kids have come to term with yet. They don't even fully understand it
the concept
at that time. I mean, I know they had just lost their teacher, but that's still a little young. And for them to, half the stuff she was saying to them, I don't even remember what all it was, but half the stuff she was saying to them was just very out of their should have been out of their age.
Even like
range.
my dad's mom, my grandma died 2001, so I had to be 6 or 7, and I still like, I remember even back then, like I didn't like, I knew what was happening, but I think about that time period as well, and I'm just like, I just remember seeing everybody sad, I'm like, wow, everybody's sad. I should be sad, but I don't really feel that sad, but like, okay.
And same when my grandma
I guess
died.
She's not here anymore.
It was just like, okay. I remember going to the funeral and just like watching my mom cry, watching everyone cry, and it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's weird. It's
and
weird.
I was like, should I cry? Like, do I need to? Okay, let's, lick your finger, put some spit on the outside of your eye to make it look like you've been crying.
I think that was like my pretty much most closest dealing with death in life. That early anyways.
Yeah,
because I can't remember anything other before that, but yeah. And so I just remember not really feeling much of anything. I mean, granted, we weren't that close. She lived like states away, so I didn't see her that often, but still, I just remember even like death itself like wasn't a fully realized concept for me at that age. Like,
didn't understand that she was like had spent time on this earth and then now was gone.
Poof. And never to return. Like, forever, will never not be here again.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You don't realize just how final it is.
And now, like, as an adult, I'd be laying up in bed sometimes. I'm like thinking like, damn, one of these days I'm like literally not going to be here anymore.
Yeah, I hate it.
And then I like start spiraling.
Yeah. I was like, I can't. I used to have like once I did understand death, it was a debilitating
I don't even think that it's like I'm afraid to die or like I'm afraid of death, but more so just the thought of like there will be no more like going to the store, like having fun with friends, like no more doing this and no more doing that. Like what? Like in this sense, I'm like, that's weird. That is so weird.
I'm just afraid that there will be nothing and I'll just float in black.
Well, but it's the thing of like, you listen, it's like, do you remember the feeling you felt before you were alive?
No.
So therefore, it would be the same thing after.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like it.
There's nothing.
Not a fan.
And so anyways, getting back to these children, they're talking all that. We're moving on. She's moving in. She got her fish delivered.
Says, I think I'll stay. Yeah, whenever she pulled the fucking fish out of a box, I was like, I'm sorry.
How did that happen?
Did you just mail your fucking fish? Rather than
don't know how that works.
Driving it up with you?
Because I don't feel like that would be survivable, but
because it was just in a plastic bag.
It was a special order, special care,
fragile.
special service. I don't know. It could have been.
From the host of the popular podcast, The Only One in the Room, Stash by Laura Cathcart Robbins is a propulsive and vivid memoir about the journey to sobriety and self-love amidst addiction, privilege, racism, and self-sabotage. Best-selling author Holly Whitaker calls it an irresistibly delicious story. And MacArthur Foundation fellow and best-selling author Kiese Lehman says Stash is emotionally riveting. Buy Stash by Laura Cathcart Robbins now, wherever books are sold.
Hey there, homeowners. Is it time to give your yard a complete makeover this summer? Villani Landshapers, a local family-owned business, has been transforming landscapes for more than 20 years. Villani Landshapers specializes in landscape design build, retaining walls, outdoor living spaces, and so much more. Request your free consultation today and check out their gallery of residential work at villani-landshapers.com.
And so she's getting moved in, everything's getting situated, and at that point we do see that someone is watching her through her blinds in her house whenever I think she's talking to the fish at one point.
Yes, that's right.
That? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
creepy.
Which is creepy Milo for sure. Because you hear his little like
yeah, weird breathing.
Yeah, as he's watching her. And
I was only writing, I was like, her outfits are real cute.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I was writing that here. And then also that she looks a little bit like Jennifer Love Hewitt from
I kept
some
thinking
shots.
that. Jennifer
Love
like,
is this Jennifer Love Hewitt?
She looks like a mix of Jennifer Love Hewitt and then the girl from Labyrinth with David Bowie. I can't remember her name. Her name's like Jennifer something, but look that up. And so she looks like her, and if you look it up, you'll be like, oh wow, she does. And so she does say to the little fish, you have a new home. And we find out that the next day she has taken the fish to the classroom at school. The little kids are looking at her, Evan's looking at her, and little Mila Kunis is as well. And she's like, he's like, the fish stinks, and she's like, well, at least he has an excuse to stink. Jennifer Connelly, she looks like her.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like,
yeah, young her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, but even like older her, like look at the older version of her, and she looks more like her. Like could be a sister, like almost
related in some
way. Cousin, something. And so we have them all at school again. Basically, we have her talking to the kids. At this point, she's trying to do a little like spelling lesson with them, but she ends up looking outside of the window and she sees Milo on his bike, and she hears the little cart in the spokes going, that familiar sound, and she is pretty much in a trance as she's watching him from across the way.
Literally misses the whole rest of the
whole period. Yeah, because
like,
she's just God knows how long she was there, probably an hour just standing there, and the bell rings and then it's recess time, and that's whenever like even Evan just comes and like tugs on her and it's like, ma'am, it's just recess,
it's time to go.
Yeah. And then Mila Kunis is like, you're supposed to let us know when it's okay to go.
Yeah.
And then does this whole like turn around, like it was a very like sassy moment. Yeah.
I also don't, I mean, I know they're kids and they're probably just like, what the hell's going on? But I feel like I would have been like, miss. I
would have too. Like, are you okay?
Like, what's going on? Do I need to be scared?
Obviously staring at something for a long time.
Yeah.
And so,
especially like, see, if she had that conversation with them and they were mature enough to hear it, then they should have been mature enough to be like, miss, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Instead of just sitting there like, I don't know.
Movie magic, though.
That's
so
true.
She ends up going outside. It's recess. She's watching Evan go and talk or run off to Milo. And
I was like, oh no, poor baby, don't go to him.
She asked Mr. Kelso, do you see that kid, that boy? And he's like basically like, I mean, they're all out here. What do you mean?
There's
like,
a lot of kids.
There's a lot of kids out here.
I hate them all.
Very much that vibe.
They're all here.
And so they end up all coming back inside.
Though, Milo's gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he is just, he's seemingly vanished. This movie a lot makes you think that, oh shit, is he a ghost?
She's going crazy.
There was multiple times where I thought, oh God, Milo's a ghost. And then I thought, okay, no, Evan is the killer. And Evan is in on it.
I could see that, like he's being used by him as a conduit, as like
kind of
the
possessed,
physical vessel.
Yeah. and or at least being,
manipulated.
Yeah. But then
I could see that.
Then they weirdly went with, I mean, the idea of what they went with was like maybe not my favorite. I would have kind of almost
it's not really
rather
realistic
him
at
be
all.
a ghost.
Yeah, because that's more realistic on what they gave us.
Then yes.
Yeah, but
anyways, we'll get to
there.
it.
So we have them getting back into class, and the little kids are passing like a little note almost
in the most
obvious way,
not indiscreet way possible.
Oh yeah,
yes.
well, because they're fucking
not sneaky at
second
all.
grade.
Yeah.
So they pass the note. It gets all the way to Mila Kunis's character, and that's whenever Miss Claire is like, "What is that?" And then she's like, "It's you." And she gives her a picture of her.
I was like, ew.
When she was a child.
It was creepy.
And it said on the back, Milo and Claire equals love.
Milo plus Claire equals love.
Yeah. And so she's kind of freaking out on the kids a little bit, just being like, where'd you get this from? And then she asks Evan, like, where did you get this from? And he's like, it was, I don't even remember what he said.
I don't either. It was either he's like, I just found it, I swear.
Oh, he found it out where he was at the recess. That's right. He was like, I just found it. And so that's whenever she's like,
and Evan's fucking lying.
Cool. Yeah, he is. She kind of lets it slide, I guess. And that's whenever we get another shot of her talking with the principal outside of the school, and she's really out of it. She's not paying attention to their conversation at all, and he's even picking up on it. He's like, are you okay? He's asked her multiple times, and she tries to explain that if it seems that she's out of it, it's because she just really cares, and this place used to be traumatizing for her.
Which doesn't make any sense to me.
Even he is like, the kids don't even want to be here, and if you don't want to be here, that's probably not good.
Yeah, you're not going to make them want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, we're getting this like shot of a little boy in a gray hoodie, which apparently Milo has worn in other times, not his raincoat. And so he's like kind of stops at the end of the stairs, and then real fucking weird, like just
turns around like he forgot something
and runs back at them. But he like stood there for way too long that I was like, that is creepy. Also, I forgot about lima beans. The principal said something about lima beans, and like they don't want to eat their lima beans, and I was like,
I've never had.
I forgot people eat lima beans. I remember growing them on a windowsill, like in a plastic bag.
And a paper towel inside of the plastic bag. Yeah.
I remember
and
that.
And it would sprout and grow tall.
I've had a lima bean, though. They're not, I don't remember them being like too terrible.
They're white, right?
Yeah, like a white pale green.
Don't know.
Anyways, that was just, he was talking about that. And I was like, damn, was that just like they made
I feel like that used
in the
to
90s
be,
and
yeah,
then
I
now
feel like
they
that
don't.
used to be probably like a big school food thing. And so she is basically at this point, you get like this notion of that, man, is she losing her mind? Because then she's in her car and she's about to drive off of the property of the school, and she sees him in his little yellow raincoat again, and he like is on his bike and whooshes right past her, and so
right in front of the
car.
Yeah,
and we have Mr. Kelso is like, you're supposed to want to hit them, not actually hit them. And so,
and at that moment too, I was like, that was where I was like, Milo caused the accident.
Oh yeah.
And then because then she asks, she was like, well, where did Ruth's accident happen? He was like, well, it was really just a few blocks down from here.
I think he literally said like half a block away.
Yeah, he was like, it was very close. And so at that point I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Milo did this. And then she still goes and follows him.
Yeah, she sees him and she follows him.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing,
why
girl?
She would do that either, but she's also like not the most sane person.
No, she's not very smart. And then she's like straight up like Tokyo drifting through the fucking residential neighborhood.
Because she ends up going on like what are those called? Like almost like a roundabout,
a little cul-de-sac,
and she almost hits a little girl. And even the mom comes up and is like, there are children out here. You need to be careful. Go away.
Exactly. Like, and the little girl walked out in the street because she saw Milo.
Yeah.
She was kind of looking after him because he went like really fast around the corner, and then Claire comes round in the corner way too fucking fast, and little girl's already in the road, almost gets hit. But then also like little girl should have looked both ways, but whatever.
And so everyone's at fault. So we have her basically talking to her friend about Milo, which is Miss Abby.
Yeah,
she's at her house. They're kind of, I guess, chatting. She's telling her how she feels about it. She's saying that she thinks that Milo also killed Ruth. And Abby's like, do you mean that little boy who drowned? Basically, I feel like Abby and both Marion had, at this point, very much like buried this trauma to where it was like almost like not even real for them.
And I put, damn, encouraging our friends to bury their trauma.
Yeah.
She literally is encouraging
her to just forget about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
like, don't think about it.
she was saying it couldn't be him because he's dead. And then she was like, well, we don't know he's dead. And they said he drowned. He's saying he vanished, which is like,
not proof.
No, he didn't, because they found the body.
Yeah. Which we learn later.
I was just like, okay, that didn't line up. But, and then she said if he was still alive, he would be like 6'6" and drool on himself. Like, just obnoxiously large. He wouldn't be a little kid.
Yeah. And wouldn't be able to take care of himself. And so that's whenever we have her looking for pictures and proof of Milo. Claire is doing this because once she's like, again, I was like,
why would you want to see a picture of him?
Dredge all this up. Yeah.
I mean, if I was brutally attacked as she was, I would want to bury my trauma. We're not going to come to terms with that. No,
we're not.
Bury that shit away. Bye-bye.
And so we have them then turning to video footage of May's birthday from one of her birthdays from back in the day before she passed away. And, Miss Claire is like, I don't remember this. And they're like, it's May's birthday party. And they're like, oh, yeah. And then at that point, we do have Milo showing up outside of the house getting filmed. And he's just being very weird as well. And I'm also thinking, like, who's filming this? As like, all these little kids go outside to some boy who's not invited to this party.
I guess a parent, but then I don't know.
Yeah, and so anyways, they're all out there talking to little Milo.
And this is when he's in the gray hoodie.
Yeah. And it's, just pretty weird footage, I would say. Like, they set it up already to make him seem like, what are they doing? Because they're just going out there and it looks like he's almost offering something, right?
Yeah, but you can't tell what
it is. It's very almost like Sinister-ish with the age, like the little kids in the footage.
Definitely.
Old school back in the day.
That's what I immediately thought. I was like, oh, it's one of the kids.
Someone, yeah. And so we're then she's talking to her friend about how, or Abby's telling her, the kids are just trying to give you like a hard time, like you just need to let them warm up to you, essentially, because she's been telling her about like what had happened at school because they had that photo of her, and she's like, Abby's basically saying what happened to ourselves, our trauma is not a secret to this town. Everybody knows about it.
Everybody knows.
So they're just playing a prank on you.
It's probably some parents, who told them too much and stuff like that, and they're just being mean, which again, I feel like they're maybe a little too young to, kids are mean and savage and stuff like that, but I feel like it was far enough removed at that point too that maybe they wouldn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
But of course, if Milo's directly speaking with Evan, he's letting him know.
So essentially, Blondie tells her, don't worry about it. Please sleep well tonight and don't talk about this ever again. But then Miss Claire leaves. And at this point, I'm like, Blondie's dead. Miss Abby's about to die. She's getting ready for night. She's putting on her
whole
cream and
skincare
stuff. She's doing that. And then that's whenever
she continues watching old films.
She's continuing to watch them. And she sees Milo even popping up in another film, right? And that's whenever
he's popping up again, and more. I think that's this, like one of these photos here, almost.
Oh yeah,
and
he ends up like, I thought, I was like, damn, did he just come through the screen?
Yeah, because he kind of like popped up in the reel, and then he started
stabbing her.
Came through
with
it.
Scalpel, yeah.
So I don't know if maybe he was like behind the projector and then just like was like hiding, just waiting, and then was like, right moment. Peekaboo.
And it was like him on screen, and then was him in real life. But yeah, he ends up just like killing her essentially.
And this scene was I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Because they're not really showing much, and it's just like dice, stab, and then like just blood starts coming out of her, and she's just like writhing around like
and screaming, and it's just kind of shifting camera angles rather quickly,
it's not showing you much
without showing much, and so you're just kind of getting like her feet on the carpet like moving around, and then you're seeing her face like really close up, but you're not like seeing her get stabbed.
It's very like Psycho, like like the first Friday the 13th, and they're like about to get hacked, and then it like cuts away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I put it was just an overall funny scene. The music that was happening, her screams and stuff.
I was like, dang, she's just getting cut up.
Yeah, she was very dead.
So we then have Miss Claire getting awoken by cops at her door because they're coming to question her, because apparently the neighbors saw her as the last person at Miss Abby's house, and Abby is now missing, and it doesn't look good because the house is like obviously bloodied up where she was killed.
They're like, based on what was left, it doesn't look promising. There's a lot of blood, Nobody though.
And after or through this conversation with the cops, the main guy, starts like insinuating to like her, like almost, he for sure thinks she's like a suspect. He's like, you were the last one to see her and she's dead. He's like, were y'all fighting? Did y'all have an argument? Did you know anybody who did not like her? And she's just basically being like, no, we were friends. Like, I wouldn't kill her. Yeah. But he doesn't believe her, obviously.
Yeah, he was being very, very aggressive towards her, really, because I was like, she's like a frail little girl. Like, she's not going to do much. At this point, I did note, too, that her acting was not the best.
No.
Here.
Not, well, there's certain moments throughout the movie,
Yeah, this was one of them where I was like, oh, okay, this is not my favorite. She also, in that moment, made the decision not to tell them about Milo.
No,
and
she didn't.
The fact, like, that, you know, they were all attacked. I feel like in that moment, that would have been the correct thing to do.
Well, especially later when he's like, you never told us about this.
Yeah. And I mean, not even saying like, I think it's Milo, but just saying like, you know, we're very close together. We went through this traumatic thing together. We lost a friend. I'm not here to hurt any of my other friends. We just lost another, like.
I don't think she's that great at communication. Caitlin. No. She's been traumatized, and I feel like she's been stunted in growth. So she did not have the capability to be like explaining all this. I think she still is also trying to process the fact that her friends are dying and she's seeing this little kid who's supposed to be dead.
She's just really stupid. I'm sorry. Because I feel like most people in that moment, I feel like if the cops were coming to question me, and I feel like most people, they would be like, here's all the information. This is all I fucking know.
I've lied to the cops many of times. I don't give them everything.
Not like, but with a friend dying, with one of like who you actually cared about. If it's not, I mean, given the circumstances, yes, depending. But if like my friend, like if you were dead, and they came questioning me saying like you were the last person to see him leaving Rogue Media Network Studios, like I would be, you know, I would tell all the information.
I think even at this point, she understands. I mean, she understands. My friend was killed by a ghost that I think is killing us. Like,
well, but I would say, like, it could have been a copycat. It could have been someone like targeting them. And so those are all like very logical things
leads
that could happen.
That they could have worked with.
Yes. Yeah. And then again, eliminates her as a suspect. Because the moment you hide shit like that and you're not
guilty.
telling, because then you're basically changing your story.
Yeah.
And that's not good. She didn't think things. She's a very dull
character.
Lead.
And so she ends up then meeting with her friend Marion. She's explaining to Marion like, I think that this is basically a remake of what she went with Abby, but Marion's even a little bit more blunt and harsher, and just
she was like Milo Jeter.
Yeah,
you're saying Milo Jeter did
dead.
This.
Yeah, and she's trying to tell her like, if you care about your job, if you care about these kids, if you care about your life, you will not tell anybody about this, and you will just like keep on living your life, ignore it. Our friend's dead. What can we do? It is what it is.
And she basically is like, you sound crazy. Like you're acting crazy. And I was like, well, no fucking shit she is. She was stabbed and all this shit's coming back up now. Like, yeah, you'd be a little bit crazy. But I would feel comfortable, telling that to my friends too. And I would be like, look, no, I already told it to the police. I don't know. I feel like she lets a lot of the environment around her sway her a lot. Because she also tells her, like, I think he killed Ruth.
She's not a strong character, like we've mentioned already so far, which she does. And that's, I feel also, I mean, it adds to the story arc as well. It adds to her character development, as like you say, from the, like when at the beginning, like how she does end up like retaking basically her, whatever it is, reclaiming her time. And so we have her having this whole conversation with Marion, and it's not productive at all. And it just basically makes her feel more crazy, and Marion's just a judgmental bitch. And
she's like, do not tell a soul.
And
about
then
this.
We cut to her being the next day going to school, and she gets freaked out because Evan comes to school on a bike dressed up like Milo.
So she's sitting there. She had already stopped at the bike racks because she noticed a bike that looked oddly similar to Milo's. And then not even that, it was Milo's bike. The M was on it. The M that we got the flash at the beginning. I believe there were cards in the spoke as well.
Yeah.
And it very clearly looked like the bike he rode because it had one of those like flat extra seats that kind of came off the back too. And then, out of nowhere. And this was like, that would creep me out. He was like,
because he just
right in front of her.
But that's kids.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I would. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. He just was being a little dick. And
yeah, well, I mean, he is because Milo is also manipulating him at this point.
Because he turns around.
Because even later when she's like, you need to stop talking to him. And he's like, who? Like, he tries to pretend like he doesn't even know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
He is obviously he's being used by Milo to make her feel more crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, and I mean, we get the conversation from them later saying like the raincoat really the slicker really freaked her out and stuff. So yeah. But he turns around once he like slams his way into the bike rack and he just says, hop on, sugar. And it was like,
and she's like, don't talk to me like that.
It's so gross.
Which is what Milo said to her whenever we had that first interaction with her in that entryway. And she was like, I've got my own bike. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. When she was a little girl. But we do have them like, she kind of has a little like moment. Of course, it looks like she's really freaked out, you know. But then we do have it going to her getting into the classroom, and I was like, is it April Fool's Day? Because the kids are pulling pranks on her. There's a frog in her desk,
which was so
essentially supposed to have been put there before they all got there.
Very different from how they were treating her just
at the beginning,
literally the day before.
They were being really nice to her.
Yeah.
And now it's like, we're going to laugh at you.
Yeah. Now they're
being dicks.
I think they put the frog in her desk as she was approaching, like someone ran off, but the stick figure of her on the board was apparently there before they got there.
That's what they say, yes.
And
I don't think it was. I think Evan did it.
Yeah.
Because obviously...
And it's not just any stick figure. It's a stick figure with rather large boobies drawn down that were like
flappy
down to her waist. Yeah. I was like, oh,
making
they're
fun
not
of her.
Doing much. Which I mean, she had real tight boobies, so I don't know, but it was just very weird.
It's supposed to mock her. It was supposed to belittle her, you know. Yeah. And so that's whenever she is basically freaking out on Evan because she's like, why did you do this? Who did this? Whatever.
Like, I know you know who did this.
Yeah.
And like, so he was there when we got here.
She ends up calling Mr. Kelso, and he comes in, and she's trying to, like, you know, can you please just take care of this? Can you do something? And he's just like, well, I can't lock the kids out. I can't I can't. She was like, you need to keep doors locked or something like this. And he's like, well, I can't lock doors because kids need to come in. And like, you know, this.
He was like, it doesn't make much sense, miss, to keep kids locked out of a school.
Yeah. And then also, too, he's just like, kids will be kids, basically. And so she's just like, can you just do something to cover this up? And he's like a map? And he just pulls down the map and covers this up. Fuck.
Yeah. But also, like, he could have gotten that off.
Yeah. But also, she could have as well.
Yeah.
Probably.
It looked like it was just chalk.
Yeah, right? Like, and it was just, she could have just, like, wiped it off.
Yeah. She had her little eraser there, and I guess for whatever reason it wasn't working.
But at this point, it's recess again. And, I think even before that, my bad. She sees Milo talking to Evan, or we see Milo talking to Evan.
Yeah, we see Milo talking to Evan, and he's basically saying, like, that what I said earlier with the raincoat scaring her and stuff like that. And then we see kind of like, I think it's kind of happening in between too. Milo hands him something and then it falls down like into his hand and Milo's gone. And so at that point, it really made Milo look like a ghost because I put, so Milo's a ghost right there because the way they shot that.
He was there and then not there.
Yeah. But then like you're still seeing the thing that he was transferring him fall down. And so unless this kid has like superhuman speed too, I'm not entirely sure what that thought was there.
I also didn't get it either because with the explanation later, it's like, oh, he's real. So, but is he a mutant? Because does he have like super speed? Because how did that happen?
Because he does have super
strength. Can he teleport? Yeah.
But he does not have super speed. That was not one of the things that was listed.
And so we have it's recess time again, and Miss Claire asks Mr. Kelso to go to recess with her, like, I guess because she doesn't want to be alone. She wants also probably if something were to happen or she's to see Milo, she wants to be like, do you see him? You know, proof, I guess.
Yeah.
But after this recess session, they end up coming back inside, and I think that's whenever she sees Milo inside the classroom, or she walks in, and it happened really fast, and I was taking notes, and I felt all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, we're fighting Milo in the classroom. But she was essentially just having like a freak out moment, right?
So Evan was already inside the classroom. We see Evan in there. And, we see a kid in a raincoat walking down the hallway. And she was like, Evan. And I was like, damn, Evan's like fucking with her hardcore kind of thing. And then I was like, oh, wait, shit, was that Milo?
Because he was already in the classroom.
Well, he wasn't, I don't think he was in it because she gets locked out of the classroom. And that's when he attacks her. And so he turns around. He was like walking to the classroom. Evan was in the classroom. Evan was for sure in there. And then he turns around. He says, don't you have a kiss for an old friend? And which is gross. And then that's when the door closes and shuts and she's locked out of the classroom and they're having the fight. And Evan has a cigar.
I saw that, yeah.
In the school.
I don't know.
Which I was just like, what?
I thought maybe, is that what he passed him? Milo passed him?
Maybe, yeah.
Because I don't know where else he would have gotten that
It was
from.
just very odd. But yes, she's getting attacked. And I think she was actually getting attacked by Milo. But then I think he fled
Went
the
away
scene
fast again.
Before other people got there to
see.
make it seem like she was crazy.
And she just passed out as well.
Yeah. And then the kids were freaked out because, the door is getting shut. And then they just see their teacher screaming and flailing on the other side, having just lost another teacher. They're probably like, oh, is she going to die too now? Like, yeah. I don't know. And so it was a little like, what? Damn. And then
she comes to in the nurse's office with another little kid, and they have like the little thermometers underneath their tongues, and we have Marion coming to pick her up,
and she's smoking a cigarette, and the lady comes up to her and she's like, miss, this is a grammar school, you can't smoke in here. And she was like, oh, good thing we're leaving.
Yeah. And just like blows it in her face.
Damn. She's savage.
Yeah, she really is. And so they're in the car, they're driving off, and that's whenever Miss Claire is going on even more about the whole, Milo wanted this to happen. He's a clever boy. He wants me to probably look like I'm ill.
I was like, and Milo's gaslighting her.
Yeah. And at this point, even Marion is just like, you know what? Strike that. I know I told you not to tell anybody, but I think you should tell somebody. And she's like, who? And she's like, a doctor. You need
I'm
therapy.
Take you there right now.
And this is so stupid too, because then Claire is just like, okay, yeah, I'll tell you where to go. And she like takes her back to where they were little kids. And I don't know how Marion didn't like realize like,
this is where we're going.
This is where we're going. Yeah, because she's just like
before they pulled up
because
to
they
the
literally
house.
Even get out, and it's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. This is not cool. She's telling her, and I'm
the
just
moment because the sign is at the start of the driveway.
Yeah. So she should have known already.
I would have said like, nope, actually, I'm not going to turn in there.
Yeah.
That's a bad fucking idea.
But they end up going, and she gets out with her, and they end up going into the house. Yeah.
And like, oh, God, it just didn't make any sense. And she was like, I need to ask Dr. Jeter, Milo's dad, about what
is going on.
Like, what the hell's going on. See if he knows anything. And then, of course, they do the age-old dumbass fucking thing of just walking into the house because no one answered.
Yeah.
They knocked, but then they were just like, oh, door's open.
Yeah.
Let me walk in. I mean, I guess it is a doctor's clinic per se, but I don't think he was still practicing.
Yeah, no.
Because his practice was ruined after all the stuff with Milo.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But they just, anyways,
But they're going to trespass because it's a horror movie. And so they end up going in and they make their way to the same china cabinet that they'd seen before, but there's no jars in it this time. And I think even before that, they see that like little weird file cabinet that's in the house. Mm-hmm.
And there's the empty like spot of dust as if like they had just been moved or something too. And she turns back to Marion and she said, the jars, do you remember the jars? And I was like, bitch, fucking of course she does. She was traumatized too. Like she was there that day. Of course she remembers the fucking jars. That's the whole reason y'all were in this situation.
Yeah. But Claire has reason to ask her that though, because Marion's been treating this as if like shit isn't real. Like shit didn't happen when they were little kids.
True. Her delivery did not give that was the reason she was asking that. Though her delivery just felt like, oh my God, the jars. Do you remember them? And I was like, bitch, that is a rhetorical question at this point.
And so they're going through it. Basically, they get separated because Miss Claire is just persistent and she wants to figure out even more. And Marion is just like, I'm out of here. But as soon as she like goes through like to another room, she ends up running into Dr. Jeter.
And he's very like has a very looming presence.
Yeah,
which is like
scary. And so she's just like,
right before that is when they mentioned, do you think Dr. Jeter performed abortions?
Oh, he was an abortion doctor. Yeah.
And so then it was like,
And so I'm like, oh, this is Dr. Jeter. So he ends up they go into the room where Claire is, because he's like, your friend is very concerned for you. She thinks you've lost it. You need to get out of here. Like, and she's telling him like, please, you need to help me. Milo's been attacking my friends. And he's like, my Milo, my son. And then he's like, you know what? Follow me if you want to see Milo. And so he ends up like leading them outside as they're talking and having more communication, like exposition on like what's happening.
And he felt very resentful with everything he was saying. He says like, Milo basically, this ruined his life. Like the doctor, he was saying it ruined his life, it ruined his practice. Like, how do you feel about people? Like, how do you think I felt with having all these people just gawking at me, knowing that my son did this and stuff? Yeah. Which is like, okay, but then also it felt very, I feel like you wouldn't think that about your son that was dead.
Yeah.
Regardless, I mean, it's still your son. Something horrible happened. But then I feel like a lot of the times if there is some sort of parental bond, most of the time they're going to be like, but that was still my kid.
Yeah.
And so it didn't feel that, to me, the way he was speaking about Milo didn't feel like Milo was actually dead.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he wasn't.
He wasn't, yeah. And he was leading to. And also, Dr. Jeter is not like, he's a villain.
Yes, yeah.
Because essentially later on we figure out like he is, and I mean that has to make sense because who brings back an aborted fetus?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, there's a whole lot of crazy going on there.
He was
crazy but gets crazy.
We've got a Dr. Frankenstein situation.
And so he's just not having it. He ends up taking them outside to what is supposed to be quote unquote, a
little tiny wooden cross.
Milo's grave.
Yes. And they said they found him 5 weeks later, bloated, putrefied. And he was like, he asked her, do you want me to get you the shovel?
So and it was like, dig him up.
Damn. Okay.
But I mean, I've seen in other movies too, parents act like that whenever people are like talking about their deceased children. Like people are very like, well, very offensive, very defensive.
Yeah, definitely.
But
and it feels
also he is a red herring, like, and this is all a red herring because he knows exactly what they're fucking talking about. He knows that this dude is still awake.
Milo's not being very sneaky, like he's very been
much so.
seen.
Like, we talked about his damn, and so and maybe they were planning this all together, and so they end up leaving.
I feel like they were, because the doctor even says like, it is y'all's fault that this happened to Milo, basically, and was like,
or he blames Claire.
Not really.
A lot. Yeah. And so they end up leaving. And as they're leaving, it's like raining outside. It's nighttime, and we have a little boy on a yellow raincoat, and he's on the bike. And this is like, they
Marion
both see them
to miss him, and so she's like, I fucking know you saw him.
Yeah, Claire's like, I know you saw him.
Don't tell me you didn't. Like,
and she's just like, it's some regular kid on a bike.
And I was like, Marion, believe the fucking girl. Come on, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. And so
Jesus.
She ends up like, he ends up turning around, and she like drives towards him. She's like, okay, now we're gonna really find out. And she gets out of the car, and she's
I thought
like,
she was gonna
waiting
hit
for
him.
I thought so too.
Which, honestly, well, I guess in the unlikely event that it wasn't Milo, that would have been very bad. So actually, maybe it was better what she did. And
so she gets out of the car, and he ends up like basically jousting with her.
Yeah.
And she ends up falling into like the glass and the side of the car, breaking the glass. It all shatters onto Claire.
Didn't make any sense because this is a kid on a bike hitting you. You're not going to break through a car window.
Well, even the way it broke too, it's like, that's not how car glass breaks.
Yeah. It was very like, and then I don't even know really what he did. Did he have anything in his hand?
No, I think essentially what it did is that it like he hit the car door with his bike, and so she ended up like
falling.
And maybe also the strength from him hitting the car door shattered the driver's door.
And I don't know, he does have super strength, so maybe he like threw a punch.
Yeah, but
right, because she wasn't dead yet.
Yeah, but she was bleeding a lot profusely. There's a big trail of blood as he's pulling her off. Miss Claire comes to, and she's like, oh my God, she can't find Marianne. She's not there anymore.
Lots
so she's
of
like
blood, but no Marianne to be
going through
found.
the woods, trying to find her. She's calling out her name, trying to look for her. And at this point, we do see like Milo is still like trying to like pulling her body, trailing her off.
Come with me.
Yeah.
Come with me.
And then we cut to, after all this happens, Claire back at the police station. She's having another encounter with them. She told them obviously what had happened. At this point, she still has not disclosed the Milo information that she was connected to them when they were little, but she did tell them, like, we think it's this boy who is attacking us. But he's like, well, here's the case file. He's dead.
Shows the corpse that they found.
But also, you should have told me that you're one of the girls that he attacked when y'all were little.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're withheld information. Kind of everything that you said earlier. Like, this doesn't look good on you.
Yeah, because now it seems like you're returning to the scene of a childhood crime.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that is what she's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's
implicating her.
Yes.
As well, because he's saying like none of this started in our town until you got here.
Yeah, you showed up, and now there's like a trail of bodies in your wake, basically. And honestly, I would have liked it if Claire was the copycat killer, and then was like getting revenge on her friends for not helping her or something. That would have been kind of cool. But then I don't know how we would have got
incentive
Milo.
motive though, other than her being crazy. Because like,
yeah. Well, I mean, if her friends were telling her to like bury all the things and stuff like that,
but
and
that's after the fact things were happening.
Well, but then
like,
she did have to like leave town because she was like so debilitating, and I feel like eventually her friends were just like,
resentment.
Yeah, because eventually they were just kind of like, well, you wouldn't get up.
They never checked on her.
You wouldn't do anything. Yeah, and which they could have elaborated that more if they did go that route.
Yeah,
but.
And so
that still, I think, would have been more exciting
than what we got.
Yeah.
So the cop is kind of basically being a little douchey towards her, but I mean, he thinks she's crazy, and so at that point,
yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of people. Like he said, he's got a lot of fucking people dead, and they didn't start dying till you showed up.
Yeah, and he's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" She's like, "I didn't think it mattered." And I'm like, "Okay,
why do you like? Yeah, of course and that so mattered."
He obviously thinks it's her. Whatever. She gets a phone call. We don't get to see who she's calling just yet, but then the next day, she's talking to Mr. Kelso. At the school, and he's basically saying like, the cops talked to me. She's like, I know. And he's like, they asked me a lot of questions, but basically I got your back. And then that's whenever we have the nurse coming in, and she's like, there's been an accident. Yeah. And
I'm sorry. Claire's use of the word no from about here throughout the rest of the movie just cracked me. She'd be like, no.
Yeah.
No. It's just like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's very TV acting.
It's funny.
And so we have her going into the nurse's office, and we figure out from the principal that like one of the school buses had an accident. The kids are in there like with like, little ice packs, and they're like little boo-boos.
No one was severely hurt, but it's still...
Yeah,
it gave
and it gave the principal cause to like cancel school for the day, and he was like, can you wait here with the kids until like everybody goes home? And so they're all like having the parents come pick them up, and even at that point, I love how she was like, fucking Milo.
Yeah,
under her breath.
Right. Yes, I thought someone heard her because she didn't. She wasn't.
It was a loud whisper,
it
but
was loud.
She's in there with the kid. She's talking to Evan, and she's making Evan promise not to talk to Milo again. She's like, he's an evil kid. Don't talk to him again. After he gaslit her and was just like, I don't even know who you're talking about. But then obviously he knows.
She was like, talk to your other friends. He was like, I don't have any friends.
And she's like, but I'm your friend.
She said, but what about me?
And he
like,
obviously
okay.
the face he made was just like, oh shit, not the teacher being my only friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we have we figure out that who she called was Mr. Jeter, Dr. Jeter, because he comes up to the school and he's talking to her, and she's basically pleading to him like, I need your help, and even if you don't believe me, this is all connected to you, and it's your son, and I
need you to stay with me because your word will be valid. If this is your kid, you'll be able to identify him, and
which I'm like, that
I
makes
need
no
you
sense.
On my side, which was like, okay,
who's gonna believe the abortion clinic doctor who everybody was making fun of back in the day? Like, who's gonna believe that? Like, his word doesn't seem like it carries much weight.
Yeah, he's been ostracized.
Literally,
clearly, he said everyone was gawking at him and stuff like that. But I mean, if anyone was going to be able to identify Milo, it would be Milo. Or it would be his father. Yeah.
Dr. Jeter. But at this point, we do have, after he sits down on the tiniest chair.
I put big man, little chair.
Milo turning off all the lights in the school. We have, poor Mr. Kelso ends up getting attacked by Milo.
Does he stab him in the dick?
No, he had grabbed his nuts and was squeezing them.
That's what he did. I rewound it even because I was like, what did it?
No. He hit him once.
Okay, but he definitely went for the groin.
Yeah, he had hit him once, and then Mr. Kelso tried to fight back, but then he grabbed him by the nuts, and so he was squeezing them so hard that he came down to his knees, and then he was stabbing him.
Yeah.
Yeah, in his face.
And he was crushing his head, ugh.
And so, we have him going off on Mr. Kelso, and they come just literally 10 seconds too late, running out of the classroom to check up on him.
Oh my God.
And then we have essentially them driving Mr. Kelso, Mr. Doctor, whatever's fucking Dr. Jeter, and they're gonna go to the hospital, but Dr. Jeter is in it's too far, he won't make it.
And I was
so
bitch, you're a gynecologist, not a brain surgeon.
Yeah, and they stop at his clinic, and she's like, no, not here.
And then I was like, well, maybe he could help his penis if he got stabbed.
I don't know,
but he didn't get stabbed there. It was,
and
but
so
still, what?
Yeah, I was also thinking that too. I was like, you're not in general surgery. This is you
have a very specific skill set, and it's on the opposite side of the body.
Mm-hmm. And so we have them getting back to the clinic, essentially, which is Dr. Jeter's practice, which is no longer a practice, but they're there. And even at this point, I'm like, no, this is Dr. Jeter's in on this, because why would he go here? But we're back at their residence. He basically takes Mr. Kelso.
That Kelso could walk. I mean, I know they were supporting him, but his legs were so consciously moving with him. He could have made it to the hospital.
Oh, yeah, that's
if
why
he
he's
had
in on
enough
it.
power, because he said, I don't think he'll make it. And then once I saw him walking, I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, he could have made it to. If he still has enough brain function to move his legs and stuff, this man could have made it to the hospital. You're a fucking liar.
Yeah. And so that's our real life logic. And so we're just like, come on, Claire. But Claire is obviously going to go into the house, as she should not. And we have him taking Mr. Kelso into this the clinic, the room where he's gonna, the surgery room, sure. And if you could call it that. And he closes the door, so she doesn't get to go in there. I'm like, I would not have left him alone with Dr. Jeter.
Yeah.
And so, but at this same thing, she's not using her brain, but we leave him alone with Dr. Jeter, and that's when we get the really spooky vibes from him. Oh, damn it. Okay, this guy's in on it, because he ends up duct taking.
Yeah.
After Mr. Kelso's you used to be a weird kid. I remember you.
And he was like, I never forget a kid.
You were too clean.
Yeah, you were too clean, is what he said.
Also, I was thinking damn, how old is Mr. Kelso? Because he's been even there since that dude was a kid.
Yeah, I guess maybe he was 16 or
probably
something.
Probably a young janitor.
Just kind of like the young janitor that we get at the end. Maybe just, fresh baby face.
Yeah, like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. He ends up getting duct taped. Yeah, and we have, I think at that point, Claire is trying to get to a phone to call someone or call for help, maybe 911. That the phone lines don't work. It doesn't even plugged in or anything. There's no line, and so that's whenever she ends up she finds the jars, because she sees that the file cabinet we saw earlier is a little open, and she finds them in there.
And Milo, we find out, was an experiment. He was the aborted baby.
Yeah, that's right. Because at that point,
or I think she had even found that out before him, or maybe
no, because at this point he attacks her.
Was Jeter telling?
He tells her that after, when they're on the stairs, going up the stairs. Remember?
Oh.
Because at this point, Milo is under a table, and she screams for Dr. Jeter. But Milo attacks her before anybody can come to her.
Yeah,
and
I guess
fighting.
I just had that way up, because I put, damn, tapes his mouth shut. Milo is the aborted baby, an experiment. I think Dr. Jeter told Kelso that, because then I have phone lines are dead, and then I put, damn, I love this theme music. I think, and then because then she finds the jars.
Mm-hmm. She finds the jars.
So I think Kelso at least at some point said it.
Oh, okay.
And then,
or Dr. Jeter said it to Kelso.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's whenever she gets attacked by Milo. We have the jars breaking all over the floor. He's really going ham on her.
And she, the way she was running up the stairs was very girl.
Goes up the stairs, but
she was falling all over the place. Right
whenever he's behind her, that's whenever Dr. Jeter sedates, quote unquote, because I don't even think he really can sedate him, sedates the little boy Milo, and that's when he explains to her on the steps
There were some, like, he says, what, did you think he was a ghost? And I'm sorry, she used no again there too. But then he says basically, like, yes, there were some regrettable side effects that happened.
Because he was an aborted fetus and all that. Yeah, he loves murder. That's the side effect.
He's, very violent, and he's got, he's very strong, stuff like that. And then he was saying, this is where he says, Milo blamed you for what happened. And then he says, and I blame you too. And basically that they both blame you and the other girls.
Yeah, they're just crazy. And so she ends up being able to get away. She goes all the way upstairs to where she gets to the attic, and he like locks her in there. And
he had also at this point, she said, like, what happened to Mr. Kelso? And he said nothing, but I don't think he's going to pull through.
Yeah.
And it was nothing because he did nothing to him. He didn't help him at all.
And so she ends up getting up there, and at that point, we do see that she finds like all the newspaper clippings from earlier, like the wedding announcement, but with Dr. Jeter's face like over the guy's face, and was
it Dr. Jeter's or was it Milo's face?
I thought it was Dr. Jeter's face.
Oh, I thought it was Milo because Milo was the one who wanted to marry them.
It's true
because it was on the wedding announcement of Ruth.
It could have been him.
I think it was a weird photo of Milo.
And so,
and while this is happening, Dr. Jeter's putting, like, Milo's a pretty normal looking kid. He doesn't look that weird. No, I mean, he's got maybe some messed up teeth, but other than that, he looks like a normal kid. But then Dr. Jeter's like putting a muzzle on him. It's straight up like all over his head cage. Yeah. And then we see him going to inject him with some sort of
sedation.
And then I was like, at that point though, I was like, is this some sort of growth inhibitor that maybe that's why he was still so small? Like, what if Dr. Jeter was making him not grow past that age too?
Maybe that's giving very Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And so he is going up to basically start attacking Claire again, and he's just banging on the thing, and she's trying to hold him down, right?
This is what I also thought it could have been with the air vents, because whenever he does finally break, which
through the
fact that he just uses his head, yeah.
Well, he does it so much that he passes out.
Yeah. And so whenever like she's looking through the piece of shattered wood there, I was like, oh, maybe that was
what
it.
You thought it was.
I think it was a little bit of that combined with the from behind the stairs, later on with cutting the ankles. I think it was kind of a mixture of both of that, but she uses that opportunity once he does knock a hole through it and is knocked unconscious. She uses that opportunity to unlock the room because earlier whenever Jeter locked her in the room. Yeah.
And so she walks down the stairs. She then once again gets attacked by Milo because he pops up and they're fighting again.
And she was going to hide and stuff, and then like hides behind a door.
Yeah.
Which is like, what?
It's not smart.
What? And then, but also behind that door is Dr. Jeter's corpse.
Yeah.
Because Milo had murdered him.
Yep.
Whenever he tried to inject him with that syringe.
Trying to control him, but he can't control Milo. And so we have another altercation between them, and they're just going ham at it. And then I think at some point she kind of does walk away, and she like gets down on her knees at some point. I don't remember what she's doing. She's grabbing someone, but he comes from behind her and injects her with this sedative.
Because I think she like kind of knocked him
out for a second, right?
And so she's like, oh, I'm safe. And it's like, bitch, no, you're not. And she goes to look at something, pick it up off the ground, and then he's like, tap, tap. He literally just taps on her shoulder and sedates her. And then we wake up in a wedding dress.
Yeah, she's in that wedding dress, and I guess she's downstairs, right? Or in the basement, it looks like.
Or I think she's in one of the bedrooms.
Oh, you're right.
Because she goes down to the basement later to find all of her friends also in wedding dresses.
That's right, because she hears
screaming.
A sound,
or something like that, And Milo comes up in a little tux, and he's like, it's your wedding day. Aren't you happy?
Yeah.
And it's like, ew, no. And then the way he starts cutting her dress off,
and he's like the groom, dressed up as the groom, and he's taking the little notches off of her wedding dress. It's very sexual again, just like the beginning with May.
Because it's like a button down all the way down the back. He's like turned her over,
she's chained up, she's shackled.
Yeah, and then he kind of almost mounts her.
Yeah,
and then it's like popping each of these buttons off like one by one, like cutting down her dress, and it was just very like
it's creepy. Yeah, so she's chained up, but that at this point. Mr. Kelso just comes and picks him up and throws him across the room, just eats him.
He was like, get off.
Yeah. And they end up getting into an altercation as well. She's still trying to get out of her shackles, and we have Mr. Kelso and him in like the restroom, and he's drowning him essentially.
Yeah, and at first I was like, boy, don't leave her tied up. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you chunked
because he was
him
trying to
through.
help her at one point, but then the little boy got back up again, so he's like, well, gotta go take care of this.
And someone falls through the ceiling at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both fall through, and then that's when they get into that bathroom, and then so he starts drowning him, but then
he dies.
Yeah, because
Mr. Kelso passes out because it's so much, right?
Milo stabs him.
Okay,
he has his scalpel in his hand, and he
stabs him. Gotcha.
Right into his like.
I thought he was just succumbing to his wounds.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I think it was a mixture of that, and then also being stabbed
once more
on top of that. Yeah, and it was just like the the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and she does eventually get unchained, and that's whenever she hears that scream, and she ends up opening the door. As I'm just like, girl, why wouldn't you just leave? But okay.
Yeah.
She opens the door and goes to investigate, and that's when she goes in there and she finds that Marianne is like all in the stirrups and like in the wedding dress.
Well, even whenever she goes and finds his body, Kelso's body kind of hunched over Milo's in the bathtub. The way she just kind of is like, oh my God. And she like turns around, and it looks like she's kind of like,
because she thinks it's done. Yeah.
Sulking and stuff. And it's like, get out of the house right now. She takes her sweet time, and then she's still hearing the stuff in the house. And I was like, oh, is Marion still alive? I don't think Marion was still alive. I don't know what was making those sounds.
I thought, what I was thinking at this point, I thought, oh my God, May is still down there, and she's been like kept
down there
in captivity all these years. I thought it was May, but then it wasn't.
Cool too.
I would have preferred that better. But we see that it's Marianne. She's in the little wedding dress. She's in the stirrups, and she's still alive, but like barely hanging on, and she's just like making those noises. And then we have,
and you see the blood by her, because he said, which then I was like, wait, so was Marion pregnant before that?
No, I don't think she was. No.
And so then, because he said like later on, he says that he got like a baby from her, and he basically says that I don't think it turned out too well.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, maybe I dreamed that, but I feel like it's in here somewhere.
Maybe I don't know that part.
It was creepy though, and it was just very disgusting. I was like, oh. But then he comes up, because he says, hi Claire, and she starts attacking him there, and then she's running off, and she gets like a little museum of her friends. It was very Michael.
She runs into Abby, who's also in a wedding dress as well, and she's had enough at this point. But then Milo starts attacking her at this point, like you said earlier, from underneath the stairs or something,
and he says, Claire's got a boo-boo, as he's slashing her ankles.
Oh, she's got another one.
And
he's just slashing at her. But at this point, she ends up trying to get away from him. She goes up the stairs. She's like knocking and pounding on the door, but she can't get it out because obviously it's locked. So she goes back down, and that's whenever she's going through like the bottom part of a house, like when it has like the stilts kind of part.
And because she tries to get out. She's like, going through.
She's like on her knees at this point, like crawling. You know? Yeah.
And because I'm guessing the basement was only under part of the house. Like they only dug deep enough for that, and then the rest, because my house growing up was like that, where it had a crawl space underneath, and there were like areas where you could get to it and stuff, but there was no actual basement.
Yeah, no, same.
And so it's very much like
that's what it gave. It gave like the visit when they're underneath the house.
Yeah.
And
then but there's still like a weird little window thing too, which I was like, this is giving Barbarian, which I know Barbarian just
even
came
when
out. But she just like narrowly is like getting to the window, and then of course Milo gets her there.
Milo pops up,
and he pulls her back in, and then he's kind of like talking to her and stuff, but that she like stabs him in the stomach.
Yeah, with a piece of wood.
Yeah,
a big long piece of wood, like a 2x
wooden stake.
Yeah, essentially.
It was cut off, and then she just.
It was sharp at the end, and she just punctured
his death
right
was
through
a little comical.
Yeah,
as he was going down, he was.
Yeah, I mean, it's Milo.
I loved it.
And so then essentially we're like, okay, yay, now I think Milo's dead. And so which I'm thinking like, no, he probably can't die, he's gonna come back.
He's like Michael.
Yeah. And so
this is a child Michael.
Yeah. And so that's whenever she ends up being able to climb out of the basement, very barbarian-ish, like when she gets out of that thing almost. And that's pretty much like it transitions after that to
we get shots of the school with our new janitor.
A new day. There's a new janitor
because Kelso's dead,
and we have basically
we hear Milo breathing,
and we have the little, you can always hear like that little spoke with the card noise in the back, and the little ding
and
ding
his little bell ding,
from the bike, and we see Milo was here written on the wall.
Yeah, a little graffiti,
and then it pans to the janitor, and then I think it pans back to like the empty hallway, and then back to Milo was here.
Yeah, and then we end with young Claire's attack again.
Yeah,
it was just a shot of the same shot of when Milo opened the door to then stab Claire that we got at the very beginning.
Another jump scare.
Yeah, it was just a little like
very kind of sinister.
Bagul. Yes, very sinister with Bagul at the end, just being like, hello. Like that was same idea. But yeah, that's
1998.
That's Milo. I am just very thankful that other people were also afraid of this film, because I thought I had completely
fever dream
made this up, and while I apparently still did make parts of it up, I
not all of it
didn't make all of it up. So that was nice. Yeah, a lot of the comments, I'm trying to find some right now. I remember watching this as a kid. I've been trying to find it for years, most of my life, and literally just found it. I asked everyone I knew throughout this whole time, and no one knew what I was talking about. I convinced myself that I dreamt this up. Now I can die happy. This is someone named Isaac Vargas.
Gotcha.
Who commented on that and stuff. And it was just, I like that everyone was, this person said, I remembered watching this movie with my sister when we were kids, and the only reason why I was reminded of it was because my husband suggested we name our son Milo, and she was like, absolutely the fuck not.
He will be a murderer.
It was just very fun to see that a lot of other people actually had seen this movie.
Yeah.
And that they were scared too, because when I watched it back, I was like, what?
You're not the only one.
Because I also I felt much scarier films growing up, and then was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And then this one, for some reason, stuck
with you. Well, there's always those films that like have that, for some reason, they just latch on to you.
Yeah. And this was one of them.
It's kind of like, for me, Signs, like by M. Night Shyamalan. Like I watched that today. I'm like, this really isn't that scary. But I remember I had to be like 10 when that came
remember
out,
lots of people being afraid of Signs.
Well, I watched it in the theater with my sisters. For some reason I think my parents like made me tag along with them to be like, if you want to go out with your friends, take your little brother. They always used to do that shit to them. And so I just went, and so I'm like, why am I being punished? And so yeah, and I just remember like, oh, that one scene where the alien is walking by, and the Mexico news camera footage, and the little kids are like, está allá, and it's like at a birthday party. I don't know why that like scared
the shit out of you.
Scared me so much. To like years later, I was still just like
gives you the heebie-jeebies.
If you think about it, it gives you the heebie-jeebies. Yeah. So I was just like, yeah. But
hey, I mean, Andrew suggested that we cover Signs. He was like, I like Signs. That's a horror movie. Like, y'all should cover it. Yeah. And I was like, no, we should. Okay.
We could do a whole M. Night Shyamalan series.
We could. We really could.
Honestly, because he has so many.
So many.
Some are a hit, some a miss. Yeah. I know that he doesn't have necessarily the best reputation in making films, but I kind of genuinely do enjoy his films.
Yeah, there are quite a few
films.
There's
just a lot of, his films are also too, like, they're not necessarily just like, they're the more that they.
Are they my most favorite film ever? No. But they still have a very interesting and unique approach.
That's the thing, because he's always, I feel like, trying to inject like either a message or like something like that's underneath everything. I feel like a little more cerebral.
You have to think.
Yeah.
This is none of his films, I feel, are very. You're not going to just mindless go in and be like, blank, blank, blank. Here's what it is. Yeah. No, you have to use your brain a bit, which is probably why a majority of people don't like them. Because no one likes to think.
And we
have Google to think for us.
Escapism, you're not supposed to, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, are you ready to get into the booze?
Yes. I'm curious.
I would give this a solid 3.
Really?
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was okay, especially when I first saw like the YouTube, like I was like, what is this?
Yeah, because you sent it to me and you're like, is this right? And I was like, I think so. And because I don't remember where I was.
But yeah.
I was doing something, but I was read the comments and I was like, no one's complained that it's a bad version of the film. So I think yes.
Well, it gives also, like I said multiple times, like that very like TV movie, like straight to VHS maybe. And those don't always have the best storyline or the best plot or look the best.
Yeah.
But for what it was, like I was like, oh yeah, this is it was enjoyable.
And especially considering we watched it on YouTube, so it was a little. I mean, it clearly looked a little like bootleg.
Yeah. The quality wasn't the best.
Yeah.
It was a little pixelated at points, but I mean, it was good. I liked it. I thought it was a good story. There were like towards the end, I feel like there are a lot of other avenues it could have gone that would have been more impactful.
Yeah.
But what it ended up doing is fine. And for the most part,
I really would have loved maybe some more explanation on why Milo was still child size.
Right.
Like being like, oh, I've injected him with a growth inhibitor or something like that. And
it just needed to be explained for you.
Just because he explained everything else.
I mean, he's also an aborted fetus that came back to life.
That's true.
Yeah. But also, like, did he grow? Why did he stop growing at that age? I get it. I get what you mean. Yeah.
Like, why, for some reason? Because if
Milo too.
Well, yeah. Make it now. 20 plus years later. 98 Literally. To... I don't know math. Anyways.
But, yeah. I would give it a 3. A solid 3. And I know I've probably given other movies lower ratings that should have gotten a higher rating, but I don't know. I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun.
Well, good.
It was a fun experience. For a horror movie, I thought it was fun.
Yeah. It was fun for me to go back and watch it again and really just be like, I mean, really the amount that I didn't remember was amazing. Yeah. Because I really only remembered raincoat, bicycle, wedding dress, and apparently a fabricated memory of floor vents that weren't actually there.
That wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm sure you saw something else and you just
it must have been at the same time. It must have been that Killer Clown movie where they were like under. I just remember there was all these clowns, and then it almost felt like a Purge kind of movie where it was definitely people doing it, but they were like dressed up as clowns.
Gotcha.
I think, but then there was this underwater sex scene that I remember going like, "Am I supposed to be watching this?"
Sounds like Underworld or Underwater or water. The one with, I don't know.
If you remember, please tell me, because I've not been able to find this film either. I've also never tried. So
that makes sense.
Probably why.
That would be the reason why.
Yeah. But I've never come across it and just looking through everything either. And never been like, oh, that movie. Anyways, I was thinking I was between a 2.5 or a 3 as well. And then
you can't give this whole a 2.5 if I gave it a 3.
Because I like this movie.
I'm just saying.
But no pressure. I do think I was thinking 3. I did have obviously some issues with Claire's acting, and then.
But I don't. I think like that makes sense for a person who's gone through things and
not like the way I mean, yes, I had some issues with how she acted, but it was more so her delivery of lines.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, it was mainly her. She just wasn't a very inspiring lead. It was just kind of like, girl, no, don't go in the house. What are you doing? Like the one where you're just like screaming at her because it's like, why are you like this?
Those are the best horror movies though, because you're just like, it can't be so logical because like,
well, there's no horror movie lead is logical.
Yeah, exactly.
But she just felt especially not there for me. I just think overall her and character was just kind of like, ugh. But it more so my issue was with her acting
delivery.
Yeah. And because then there were some other moments in the film where like other people were doing a good job, and so I think it just kind of really like she stood in kind of a harsh comparison with some of those. And there were plenty of moments where her acting was just fine. It was just her inflection a lot of the times gave very.
I love how we have a different we do have different takes. I thought everyone else didn't do good. I thought she was the best one in the film.
No,
I didn't like Dr. Jeter wasn't doing anything for me. The principal wasn't doing anything for me. Her best friends weren't doing anything for me, especially the one who was a bitch. I'm like, nah. Like how you said earlier, Milo Jeter. I thought it was overacted.
Yes, that moment I will agree.
I thought her whole role was just overacted. And then, Mr. Kelso to me was just like, mostly for me,
Mr. Kelso was an asshole.
Mr. Kelso to me felt like the ghost of the movie because I was just like, why is Mr. Kelso everywhere?
Still alive?
Well, and I was just like,
why are you here?
He was everywhere.
Yeah,
like he happened to be everywhere. Whenever she almost hit the kid on the bike, whenever she was in the classroom and he happened to be there, whenever like the next day after she was attacked and like the whole jail thing, and like she had to make the phone call, and I was thinking, wait, did she call him? I was just thinking, like, why is he everywhere?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, that's true. I feel like Dr. Jeter was probably the most notable actor to have been in this film, other than Mila Kunis.
Who was he?
Vincent Schiavelli. I don't really know how to say his last name. He was in Ghost. He was in Batman Returns, in a few other movies. But I feel like he was the only one that, other than Mila Kunis, that I really recognized.
Which she wasn't even like a star then. It's just like after the fact that we recognize her.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Like if she wasn't even credited.
Yeah.
That she hadn't quite made it to, but then
they couldn't.
She's literally
legal
the
reason.
largest.
She was like 10.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I would say a 3 as well, because I mean, it's a movie that holds some sentimental value for me, because clearly it messed me up enough as a kid to where I remembered it. And then again, my fear might be not exactly this film, but there were still moments that I was just like, no.
Yeah.
And then the whole wedding dress scene, I do remember the wedding dresses and just being like,
Yeah.
Oh, also, so on Saturday, I went to an antique mall and I found a like antique syrup, like gynecology little bed.
How does one come across that?
It was just in this.
Yeah. That's
like it looks like it has a new top put on it, but that it's got the fucking stirrups in the bottom. I was like, this is
some people would be into
old,
that. Yeah.
I know. I almost wanted to buy it, but I took a picture because I knew we were covering this film, so I was like, oh, I have to take a picture of this.
That's wild, but yeah, that's pretty cool. They're out there.
So if you want to go to the Montgomery Street Antique Mall or something in Fort Worth, you can go there and buy you a gynecology table.
It'll be there. I don't think we should be recommending people to buy gynecology tables. It just feels like a problem waiting.
It feels weird.
Because like,
why do you need that?
Yeah, and
unless you're a gynecologist and it's fun office decoration.
There you go.
Or really cool Christmas. Nope.
Halloween
decoration.
That was like not a Christmas present.
Baby Jesus.
Oh God, in the manger.
Baby Jesus.
But
put Mary in there.
Marion,
Baby
literally.
Jesus
she
at the bottom.
Marion was a bitch.
Body.
She was my least favorite character throughout the whole movie.
Oh, that Marion. Sorry, I meant Mary is like Jesus'
Mary.
mom.
Oh no, my bad.
That was her name, right?
Mary. That's
and
her.
Joseph, yeah.
But once again, you guys, thank you for listening. We are in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
That's right. They always take great care of us.
Very good care of us. You can listen to our podcast and many other podcasts on their official website, which is
roguemedianetwork.com.
Bam.
And you can also listen to all of those podcasts and us on a slew of podcasting platforms, the biggest two being
Apple's Podcasts. Apple Podcasts.
Apple's Podcast.
Apple's Podcast.
Apple and Spotify have a baby.
They did. Oh, yeah. Spotify.
That would be fun.
Spoticast.
But also, Spoticast sounds much cooler.
Spoticast.
They should really go with that.
They really can.
TM.
But also Spotify.
But wherever you do listen, don't forget to
rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right. Because that is the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to tell us what movies traumatized you as a child, and what you would like to hear covered.
What is your Milo? What is your signs?
Yes, what is your Milo? What is your signs? Let us know, and you can do that by reaching out to us on Instagram, and that is at
Boobays Podcast, and that is BOOBAES, because we are your boobays, not your boobabes.
That's right. And we haven't picked what we're going to cover next, but you'll see.
You'll find out.
You will find out, and I'm sure it'll be great.
And thanks for
maybe
enjoying the
we
ride.
should just cover signs.
We'll think about it.
That would be fun. We will think about it. So until then,
there's enough time,
until we make decisions. Happy Thanksgiving's already.
No,
we're recording this before Thanksgiving, but
y'all had a happy Thanksgiving last week, and y'all are
happy Christmas,
having
happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yeah, everything's now Christmas because after Thanksgiving it's Christmas time.
Yeah,
essentially
everything's already Christmas. I watched a Christmas movie yesterday, and I was dying.
I need to watch the Lindsay Lohan Christmas movie that's new.
Oh, there's a new one.
It's on Netflix. She just came out there. It's her first film in like 10 years or something like that.
Oh, fun. I'll have to watch it. I watched Love Hard, which was very cute. It's a comedian who is the lead. His name's Josh Lynn. Well, that's his name in the film. I don't know if that's his actual name.
Oh.
But I think he directed it as well. And then it's a combination. It's called Love Hard because of Die Hard. They have their first like initial meeting is Die Hard, like what's a better Christmas movie, Die Hard or Love Actually? So then Love Actually, but then
and they
Die Hard.
Conglomerated
It was
together.
it was a super cute movie, and I loved it, and it made me feel a lot better.
That's cute.
Yeah. Oh, that was actually, I watched that Saturday.
So
I watched Milo, then I watched that. What a
dichotomy.
Yeah, very different.
That's good. You got to be well-rounded, balance.
Yes.
And speaking of balance,
I have to go balance out my bladder by peeing. So until then,
bye, babes.
Bye, babes.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.